So I'm just going to boil it down to the basic ideas of Manichaeism that Augustine first adopted and then rejected. Okay, so here's Manichaeism in a nutshell. In a nutshell. There are two eternal divine principles, two eternal divine realities, good and evil, also known, as you might expect, as light and darkness. These are two eternal divine realities, not gods per se, but divine substances that have always existed and will always exist. Now, they are both substantive, as I said. They are both material in some way. The light, the good, is a kind of lighter substance than the evil. I think of, and I see these a lot in my house, I don't know about you, dust particles that you see floating around in the air. That's kind of how I think of the good substance, the good particles of the light. And the evil is a heavier substance that weighs you down, or that weighs, just weighs. It weighs more. It's heavier, more dense. What happened was, the story goes, at the beginning of time, there was a fight between the dark and the light. Actually, the dark principle attacked the light and overcame it, so that the light, I drew a lovely picture of this on the board in my class. The light is trapped within the darkness. There's, these good light principles that are trapped within the evil dark. And the light is in an ongoing struggle to be released from the dark. Good is in an ongoing struggle to be released from evil. The cosmos, the universe, everything that exists, comes to be through this fight, this attack of the dark against the light. And again, there's a very complicated mythology that goes, that explains this. But creation happens through this admixture of good and evil. So that creation itself, the world itself, is an admixture of good and evil. And human beings in particular are souls of light. Our souls, our inner being, is light, good, that's trapped inside dark bodies, trapped inside evil bodies. Now remember I said that the good, the light, is a lighter substance than the evil. This good light that is our souls is trapped in the heavy flesh of our bodies. And I think the word flesh is really helpful here in imaging how it is that the evil, the darkness, is heavier than the good. Flesh is substantive, it's dense. It's not something that you can easily sort of poke a knife through or something like that. It is indeed heavy. And so our light souls are surrounded by this heavy, evil substance that it's struggling to get out of, that our soul is struggling to get out of. The way for the soul which is salvation, the releasing of the soul from the entrapment of the evil body. The way for that to happen is for the body to be overcome. For example, Manichaeans engaged in some perhaps extreme ascetic practices. Extreme practices of not only disciplining the body, but denying the body. So, of course, celibacy was a practice of Manichaeans. Fasting was a practice of Manichaeans. In order to overcome the evil flesh and allow the spark of light to be released. When that spark of light is released, it returns to the light, the good, from which it came. And ultimately, if all of our sparks of light are released, then that good will be strengthened and it can overcome the darkness, the evil that traps it. Does that make sense, this mythology of Manichaeanism? Okay, Augustine liked this for quite a while. In fact, he was a Manichaean or a Manichae for 9 years because it explained both disorders. It explained our anthropological disorder, our inner disorder as human beings. Well, I'm a good soul trapped inside an evil body. Therefore, my evil body leads me to do evil. And it explained the cosmological disorder. Well, the reason that evil exists in the world is because the divine itself is this admixture of good and evil. So it made sense. It explained the disorders. But ultimately, these were not satisfactory explanations for Augustine. They explained disorder without I'm sorry, I've forgotten the word I was going to use. They explain disorder without giving a good reason for that disorder. Why is it that God is this way, that the divine reality is both good and evil? Why is it that we are both good and evil? So it's an explanation without reason. And ultimately, Augustine rejects Manichaeism. And we see several reasons in the text for that. One, the teacher Faustus comes and speaks, and Augustine thinks he sounds like an idiot. He's talking about science in ways that don't make sense, and Augustine sees that he is not as learned as he pretends to be. And Augustine begins to see the ludicrousness of the Manichaean mythology when he hears Faustus speak. He also was attracted to Manichaeanism and then ultimately rejected it because of their understanding of the divine reality as substantive. And as we see in the Confessions, you recall, there are many places where he's trying to figure out how it is that God is a reality. Is God a substance that fills the whole world and even overflows the world? Or is God in some way a spiritual reality, not substantive at all? He has a hard time believing, understanding how God could not be substantive, even though that's what is taught in the Bible. And so he likes Manichaeanism for a while because it has the substantive God that's easy for him to understand. But ultimately he rejects it, again, for that very reason. Because it doesn't resonate with, again, that echo of Christianity that's in the back of his head.